Jack Morrison straightened his tie as he stepped off the transport onto Alpha Centauri Prime. The gleaming spires of the Galactic Confederation's capital stretched toward the pink-orange sky. He had made this journey dozens of times as Earth's ambassador, but something felt different today. The message from the Council of Elders had been urgent and cryptic. "Ambassador Morrison, welcome," said a tall, blue-skinned Arcturian aide who waited at the platform. "The council is already assembled," Jack nodded. "That's unusual. They typically give me time to prepare." "These are unusual times, Ambassador," the journey to the Grand Hall took only minutes in the silent magnetic shuttle. Jack watched as they passed buildings housing representatives from over 300 species. Humans had only joined the Confederation 30 years ago, relatively new compared to founding members who had been part of the galactic community for millennia. When Jack entered the Grand Hall, all 7 members of the Council of Elders were seated in their curved obsidian chairs. The room fell silent. High Elder Zykorth, an ancient being with translucent skin that revealed the slow pulse of 3 hearts, spoke first. "Ambassador Morrison, we have reached a decision regarding Earth's military participation in Confederation matters." Jack felt a chill. There had been no warning of this. "I wasn't aware Earth's military status was under review, High Elder." "It has been under observation for some time," said Counselor Vex, a reptilian elder with scales that shifted, color with her emotions, currently a deep purple of concern. Zykorth raised a 6-fingered hand. "The Council has voted unanimously. Humans are hereby banned from all military conflicts within Confederation space. Earth forces will not participate in joint exercises, peacekeeping missions, or defensive operations. This takes effect immediately." Jack's diplomatic training barely contained his shock. "With respect, this undermines Earth's sovereignty and our ability to defend ourselves. On what grounds have you made this decision?" The council members exchanged glances. Finally, Zykorth said, "It is not for your protection, Ambassador. It is for ours." Back on Earth, in the underwater military complex beneath the Pacific, Admiral Susan Hayes slammed her fist on the conference table. "They can't do this. We've been preparing our fleet for the joint exercises at Proxima Centauri for months." General Peter Blackwood nodded grimly. "I've already received the order to stand down all off-world operations. Our ships are being denied docking rights at Confederation facilities." "This makes no sense," Susan said. "Our troops have performed exceptionally in every joint operation. The Regelians specifically requested our Marines for their border dispute last year. Maybe we performed too well," Peter said quietly. President William Clark looked tired as he addressed the emergency meeting from a screen. "Ambassador Morrison is seeking clarification, but the Council is being evasive. For now, we comply while seeking answers." Frank Carter sat in a dim bar in New Geneva, nursing a drink as he watched the news. At 45, the former Navy SEAL had transitioned to diplomatic security and intelligence work after an injury. His deep knowledge of both military tactics and alien psychology had made him valuable in Earth's integration into the galactic community. His communication device buzzed. It was a message from an old friend in military intelligence. "Special assignment from the President. Your eyes only." 3 hours later, Frank was in a secure room beneath the White House, facing President Clark and a small team of advisors. "Frank, we need someone who understands both military matters and alien thinking," the president said. "I'm assigning you to uncover the real reason behind this ban." "Sir, I've already heard rumors," Frank said. "Some of my contacts in the Confederation military seemed uncomfortable after our last joint exercises." The president nodded. "That's a starting point. You'll work directly with Ambassador Morrison. Official cover as a cultural attaché." Frank arrived on Alpha Centauri Prime 2 days later. Jack Morrison met him in a secure room at the Earth Embassy. "Glad to have you, Frank. This situation is worse than we thought. The Vraxian Empire is already making moves, pushing at our shared borders with the Confederation. The Vraxians were a warrior species that had refused to join the Confederation, maintaining an uneasy peace for centuries. They're testing the waters," Frank said, "seeing if the Confederation is serious about sidelining their best fighters." Jack sighed. And the Confederation refuses to explain the ban beyond vague statements about strategic reassessment and cultural compatibility. Frank spent the next several weeks gathering information. He met with contacts, bribed officials, and sliced into secure networks. The pieces began to fall into place. In a quiet garden far from listening devices, he met with Krell, a Denebrian military officer who had trained with humans. "Your people fight differently," Krell said, his four eyes blinking nervously. "At first we thought you were just untrained. Then we realized it was something else." "What do you mean?" Frank asked. "Most species fight according to certain universal principles. There are biological and evolutionary constraints that shape tactical thinking. But humans," Krell shuddered, "you break patterns. You sacrifice pieces willingly. You endure pain that would incapacitate others. And the simulations." "What? Simulations?" After joint exercises last year, Confederation intelligence ran wargame simulations projecting how humans would perform in full-scale conflicts. The results were disturbing enough that they were classified immediately. Frank obtained a partial copy of the report that night. What he read explained everything. The simulations had shown that human unpredictability, combined with their willingness to accept casualties for strategic advantage, made them exponentially more effective in combat than any Confederation species. One section stood out. Unlike other known sentient species, humans evolved as persistence predators with complex social structures, creating a unique psychological profile. They can alternate between extreme cooperation and extreme violence, with little middle ground. If fully integrated into Confederation military operations, humans would likely dominate command structures within 20 years, fundamentally altering our approach to galactic security. When Frank brought this to Jack Morrison, the ambassador was silent for a long moment. "Have you noticed the Vraxians have already annexed a mining outpost in the Tau sector?" The Confederation response was minimal, Jack said finally. Frank nodded. "I've been tracking their movements. They're preparing for something bigger." "The Confederation needs us," Jack said. "They just don't want to admit it." "I think I understand now," Frank replied. "They're not afraid we'll lose their wars." Jack looked up. "No, they're afraid of what we'll do if we win them." Outside, the pink-orange sky of Alpha Centauri darkened as its twin suns set. In the shadow of the Grand Hall, neither man noticed the small drone recording their conversation, a drone with the distinct angular design of Vraxian technology. 3 years had passed since the ban. Lisa Donovan wiped sweat from her forehead as she peered through her microscope in the research lab on Epsilon 9. The human xenobiologist had spent nearly 5 years on this remote colony studying alien microorganisms. Today, however, her work was interrupted by blaring alarms. "Attention all personnel," came a voice over the intercom. "This is not a drill. Vraxian vessels have entered the system. Proceed to emergency shelters immediately." Lisa looked up to see her alien colleagues already rushing for the exits. She quickly secured her samples and grabbed her emergency pack. Outside the lab, chaos reigned as researchers from 24 species scrambled to follow evacuation protocols. "Dr. Donovan," called Zix, her insectoid research assistant, "the Confederation Defense Fleet is not responding to distress calls." "What?" "That's impossible," Lisa said. But deep down, she wasn't surprised. This was the 4th Confederation colony to face Vraxian aggression in the past month. In the 3 years since humans had been banned from military involvement, the Vraxian Empire had grown bold. What began as minor border incursions had escalated into full-scale invasion. 17 Confederation systems had fallen in less than a month. On Earth, retired General Alan West sat in his home office, surrounded by holographic displays showing battle reports from across the galaxy. Though officially uninvolved, Earth's military intelligence still monitored Confederation communications. What he saw troubled him deeply. "They're making the same mistakes over and over," he muttered, tracing a finger along the path of Vraxian. "Advance." His trained eye spotted patterns the Confederation commanders missed. The Vraxians always struck from multiple vectors, but concentrated their true strength in one particular formation. Their ships had a weakness in their rear shield quadrants that the Confederation never exploited. His secure line buzzed. It was Ambassador Morrison. "General, I need your analysis. The Council has requested an unofficial briefing." Alan's eyebrows rose. "And they're asking for human help? Must be desperate." "They still won't admit it," Jack said, his holographic image looking tired. "They're calling it non-combat strategic consultation. I'll send you my findings immediately. But Jack, they need more than advice. They need our ships." Back on Alpha, Centauri Prime, Jack Morrison stood before the Council of Elders once again. The chamber felt different now, the confidence and serenity replaced by tension. "Ambassador," High Elder Zykorth began, his translucent skin pulsing rapidly with his accelerated heartbeats. "We have reviewed General West's analysis." "And?" Jack prompted. Counselor Vex's scales had shifted to a dull orange of worry. "His observations have merit. However, the ban on human military involvement remains in effect." Jack couldn't contain his frustration. "While you debate, colonies are falling. Epsilon 9 is under attack as we speak. There are over 200 human researchers stationed there." "We are aware," said Zykorth. "Confederation forces have been dispatched." "Too few, too late," Jack said, placing a datapad on the central table. "The Vraxians are moving toward New Horizon next. If they take your shipyards there, you won't be able to manufacture enough warships to counter their advance." The council members exchanged glances. "What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador?" asked Zykorth. "Let us help. Not with direct military intervention, if that's still your concern. But let us send advisors, peacekeeping consultants, to observe your defensive operations." After hours of debate, the council reluctantly agreed to a compromise. On Epsilon 9, Lisa Donovan found herself in an unexpected role. With Confederation forces delayed and colony security overwhelmed, she had organized the research staff into an improvised defense force. "Set up barricades here and here," she instructed, pointing to entrances to the research compound. "Zix, do we still have access to the chemical storage?" "Yes, Doctor," the insectoid replied. "Good. I need these compounds," she said, writing a list. "We can create smoke bombs to cover our movements if they breach the perimeter." The alien researchers looked at her with a mixture of awe and concern. None of them had considered fighting back. Evacuation and surrender were the standard Confederation protocols for civilian installations under attack. "How do you know these tactics?" asked Milo, a Procyon physicist. Lisa shrugged. "Basic Earth history. Guerrilla warfare was part of our development as a species. When the first wave of Vraxian troops breached the colony's outer defenses, they expected to find frightened civilians. Instead, they encountered calculated resistance. Lisa's improvised traps and ambush tactics slowed their advance significantly." News of the colony's resistance spread through Confederation channels. Commanders watched in shock as the human-led defense forced the Vraxians to commit far more resources than planned to take a simple research outpost. On the bridge of the Confederation command ship Eternal Vigilance, General West had arrived with his team of advisory personnel. Among them were tactical genius Major Olivia Russell and guerrilla warfare expert Captain Ryan Diaz. Admiral Grelthak, a massive four-armed Taurian, greeted them with barely concealed disdain. "Observers should remain at the rear of the bridge. Do not interfere with command operations." Olivia bit her tongue. They watched as the Confederation fleet organized into the same rigid formations that had failed in previous engagements. "They're going to lose," Ryan whispered to her. "Again." "We have to convince them to try something different," Olivia replied. Their chance came when reports arrived that the Vraxian fleet had changed course, bypassing smaller targets and heading directly for New Horizon. "They're adapting their strategy," Olivia said, stepping forward despite the Admiral's instructions. "You need to intercept them here." She pointed to a star map, indicating a narrow passage between two dense asteroid fields. "That would divide our fleet. Admiral Grelthak objected. Confederation doctrine is clear about maintaining unified formations. Doctrine won't matter if New Horizon falls, Olivia argued. The Vraxians are counting on your predictability. After heated debate, and with the backing of a desperate council, Admiral Grelthak reluctantly agreed to try the human strategy in a limited engagement. The result was the first Confederation victory since the invasion began. Though the Admiral downplayed the human contribution in official reports, word spread quickly through the ranks. Meanwhile, Ryan Diaz grew frustrated with the restrictions placed on human advisors. "We're watching them die because they won't listen," he told Olivia. "I'm done observing." That night he approached a small group of alien officers who had shown interest in human tactics. "I'm forming a special reconnaissance unit," he said, "unofficial, behind Vraxian lines." "That violates the ban," one officer warned. "The ban is killing the Confederation," Ryan replied. "Who's with me?" To his surprise, 7 officers from different species volunteered. They slipped away on a small stealth vessel, heading for Epsilon 9 where Lisa Donovan's resistance still fought, holding out in underground research facilities. The Council of Elders received the news of the small victory with mixed emotions. "Perhaps we should reconsider the ban," suggested Councillor Vex, her scales now a hopeful green. Zykorth stared at battle projections showing the continuing Vraxian advance. "You know why we implemented it. The simulations may be less dangerous." "Than extinction," Vex interrupted. After long deliberation, the Council reached a compromise. They would not formally lift the ban on human military involvement. Instead, they would create a special civilian auxiliary that would coincidentally consist entirely of human military personnel. When Ambassador Morrison received the news, he smiled grimly. "It's a start," he told Frank Carter. "Now we'll show them why they really banned us from their wars." Ambassador Jack Morrison watched from the observation deck as the first ships of Earth's civilian auxiliary docked with the Confederation fleet. The sleek vessels had been stripped of military markings and officially registered as emergency response craft, but their weapons remained intact. "Quite a word game we're playing," Frank Carter said, joining him at the viewport. "Civilian auxiliaries with torpedo tubes and pulse cannons," Jack nodded. "The Council needs our help but can't admit they were wrong about the ban." "How many ships did they approve?" 20 for now, stationed across 5 battle groups." Frank whistled. "It's a start." On the Confederation command ship Eternal Vigilance, Major Olivia Russell led a briefing for a mixed group of human and alien officers. She stood before a holographic display showing the Vraxian advance. "Their next target will be Proxima Tertius," she said, highlighting a star system near the center of the map. "It's a major transportation hub. If it falls, they can strike at the core worlds directly." Admiral Grelthak crossed his forearms. "Confederation doctrine suggests we concentrate our forces here," he indicated a position beyond the system, "to prevent their further advance." Olivia shook her head. "With respect, Admiral, that would surrender Proxima without a fight and still leave us vulnerable to flanking maneuvers. I propose we split our forces into 3 groups." The Admiral's face darkened. "Divide our strength? That violates every principle that has led to 17 consecutive defeats," Olivia interrupted. The room fell silent at her boldness. "The Vraxians know your doctrine as well as you do. They're counting on it." After tense negotiations, Admiral Grelthak agreed to try Olivia's strategy with 1 battle group while the rest followed standard doctrine. The ships of the 3rd battle group, now including 4 human vessels, moved into position near a dense asteroid belt in the Proxima system. Meanwhile, Ryan Diaz and his mixed species team had made contact with Lisa Donovan's resistance on Epsilon 9. They met in an abandoned underground laboratory, safe from Vraxian patrols above. "You've held out longer than anyone expected," Ryan said, impressed by the makeshift base Lisa had established. Lisa shrugged. "Necessity breeds innovation. We've been studying Vraxian patrol patterns. They're methodical to a fault." "Predictable," Ryan nodded. "That's consistent with what we've seen in space combat." "But there's something else," Lisa added, leading them to her research station. I've been collecting biological samples from injured or deceased Vraxian soldiers. Look at this. She displayed microscopic images on a screen. They're carrying some kind of biological agent. It's engineered to specifically target Confederation physiology. Ryan leaned closer. A bioweapon? Yes. And it explains why Confederation ground forces collapse so quickly once engaged. It's not just superior tactics, the Vraxians are using a weaponized pathogen. We need to get this information to command, Ryan said grimly. But first, I want to get deeper into Vraxian territory. See if we can disrupt their supply lines. Lisa surprised him by saying, I'm coming with you. I need more samples to develop a countermeasure. In the Proxima system, the battle was about to begin. Olivia's strategy placed the third battle group in a seemingly vulnerable position, appearing isolated from the main fleet. They're taking the bait, Olivia said as Vraxian warships altered course to attack what they perceived as easy prey. Admiral Grelthak watched nervously. Your ships are surrounded. This is precisely why Confederation doctrine avoids divided forces. Wait, Olivia said calmly. When the Vraxian ships committed to their attack vector, the human vessels executed a maneuver no Confederation ship could manage, a high-G braking burn that would have injured or killed most alien species. The sudden shift allowed them to fire from an unexpected angle, while simultaneously releasing sensor-confusing drones that had been developed on Earth. The Vraxian formation broke in confusion. At that moment, Olivia gave the order for the rest of the battle group to emerge from hiding within the asteroid field. Now we have them surrounded, she said. The Battle of Proxima Tertius ended with the first major Vraxian defeat. Though Confederation leaders downplayed the human contribution in official reports, word spread quickly through the ranks. Alien commanders began to request human advisors for their ships. On Earth, General West supervised the preparation of more civilian auxiliary vessels. The Council has authorized another 30 ships, President Clark informed him during a secure briefing. Still not a formal lifting of the ban, but it's progress. It won't be enough, West replied. From what my people on the front lines tell me, the Vraxians are planning something big, and there's this bioweapon situation. Bioweapon? West nodded grimly. Captain Diaz and Dr. Donovan discovered the Vraxians are using a pathogen engineered to target Confederation species. The good news is humans appear immune. This changes everything, the president said. The Council needs to know that this isn't just about military tactics anymore. Deep in Vraxian-controlled territory, Ryan, Lisa, and their team moved silently through the underbrush of a jungle world that served as a major supply base. They had spent weeks gathering intelligence and disrupting Vraxian operations using tactics that dated back to Earth's historical resistance movements. Their main storage facility is just ahead, whispered Krell, the Denebrian officer who had first warned Frank Carter about the Council's fears. They're stockpiling the bioweapon there. Lisa checked her sampling equipment. I need at least 3 different strains to develop an effective countermeasure. We'll get you what you need, Ryan assured her. Then we blow the facility. Their raid was successful, but as they prepared to leave, Lisa made an unexpected discovery. While downloading data from Vraxian computers, she found communications from Vraxian High Command. Ryan, she called urgently. Look at this. The messages revealed something shocking. Vraxian leadership feared humans more than any other Confederation species. They had launched their invasion specifically because they believed humans had been weakened by the ban. They've been monitoring Confederation politics, Lisa explained. When they saw humans sidelined, they decided it was their best opportunity to strike. So this whole war happened because they're afraid of us? Ryan asked incredulously. Not just afraid. They have detailed psychological profiles on human combat capabilities. Some of this data goes back decades, from before we even joined the Confederation. On Alpha Centauri Prime, the Council of Elders received the news of the bioweapon with shock. Ambassador Morrison used the opportunity to press his case. This is no longer about military doctrine or tactical differences, he argued. The Vraxians are using biological warfare against your people, a weapon humans are immune to. We need to deploy more than just a token force. High Elder Zykorth's 3 hearts pulsed rapidly beneath his translucent skin. What exactly are you proposing, Ambassador? Stop pretending. End the ban officially. Let us help you win this war. After hours of debate, the council made their decision. They would not formally lift the ban, an admission of error that their pride couldn't bear. Instead, they created a special intervention force under Confederation authority, but consisting primarily of human personnel. It's still not honesty, Jack told Frank later, but it's enough to get our people where they need to be. Frank nodded. Now they'll see what humans can really do in war. That's what I'm afraid of, Jack replied quietly. The Confederation battleship, Unyielding Resolution, shuddered as Vraxian weapons fire impacted its shields. On the bridge, Commander Steve Miller, recently assigned as tactical advisor, watched the alien crew struggling to respond. Evasive pattern, Delta, ordered the Taurian captain, following standard Confederation protocol. Request permission to suggest an alternative, Steve said calmly. The captain hesitated, then nodded. Desperation had made even the most traditional commanders open to human methods. Cut main engines. Rotate 180 and fire all port thrusters, Steve said. They won't expect us to turn into the attack. The maneuver was risky, subjecting the crew to G-forces that would have severely injured humans but were manageable for the Taurian physiology. The Vraxian ships, anticipating standard evasive patterns, were caught off guard. The Unyielding Resolution fired at point-blank range, disabling 2 enemy vessels. Similar scenes played out across the front lines as Earth's Special Intervention Force deployed to key battlefronts. Confederation allies watched with a mixture of awe and unease as human tactics changed the tide of war. In orbit around the gas giant Tau Ceti IV, Major Olivia Russell coordinated the largest counteroffensive yet. 50 ships, 15 of them human, prepared to retake a strategic fuel processing station. The Vraxians have fortified these positions, she explained to the assembled commanders. They expect us to follow the most direct approach vectors. An alien officer raised a tentacle. What is your alternative? Olivia smiled. We give them exactly what they expect, at first. Her plan was bold. The main fleet would approach conventionally, drawing Vraxian attention. Meanwhile, 3 human ships would slingshot around Tau Ceti IV's largest moon, using its gravity well to accelerate to speeds no Confederation vessel would attempt near a planetary body. This is highly irregular, protested one commander. The gravitational stresses. Our ships can handle it, Olivia assured him, and the Vraxians won't have weapons charged in that sector. They'll never expect an attack from that vector. The battle began according to plan. As the main fleet engaged, drawing Vraxian fire, the 3 human vessels swung around the moon. They emerged at tremendous speed behind the Vraxian fleet and launched their attack. The enemy formation shattered, but the Vraxians adapted quickly. Their command ship altered course, bringing new weapons to bear on the human vessels. Olivia didn't hesitate. Change of plans, she announced, switching strategies mid-battle, a concept foreign to Confederation military doctrine. All ships concentrate fire on these coordinates, the Confederation fleet responded, though some commanders did so reluctantly. The combined barrage overwhelmed the Vraxian command ship's shields. A cheer went up as it listed in space, weapons, offline. An alien officer approached Olivia after the victory. I have served for 200 years, he said, his compound eyes blinking rapidly. Never have I seen a commander change strategies during engagement. Adaptability is a human specialty, Olivia replied simply. On occupied worlds, Ryan Diaz's guerrilla units had grown from a small reconnaissance team to a substantial resistance force. They moved through the ruins of a once thriving colony world, now held by Vraxian forces. The supply depot is 2 kilometers north, Ryan told his squad. We hit it fast, plant the charges, and disappear before they know what happened. Lisa Donovan checked her medical pack. She had developed a preliminary vaccine against the Vraxian bioweapon, but needed more field testing. Remember, administer this to any Confederation civilians you encounter, she instructed the team. It should provide temporary immunity. The raid succeeded, but during their escape, They encountered heavy Vraxian resistance. Ryan was hit by enemy fire, a wound that would have incapacitated or killed most species. Blood soaking his uniform, he continued to direct his team's retreat, refusing evacuation until all his people were safe. When finally treated on their hidden base, the alien medic was astonished. "You fought for 3 hours with this injury?" Ryan shrugged, wincing at the pain. "Had a job to finish?" The medic's assistant whispered to Lisa, "Is this normal for humans?" "More common than you'd think," she replied. Word of such incidents spread through Confederation ranks. Observers documented human soldiers continuing to fight despite injuries that would have immobilized other species. Some found it inspiring, others disturbing. The Vraxians, sensing the shift in momentum, launched a desperate assault on the Confederation capital system. It would be their final gambit, a massive fleet aimed at the heart of their enemy. Admiral Susan Hayes, now commanding the combined Human Confederation Defense Fleet, prepared for the decisive battle. The Council of Elders had finally requested Earth's most experienced space commander, though still under the pretense of advisory capacity. "They've committed everything to this attack," Susan told her officers. "This ends here one way or another." The battle for the capital was the largest space engagement in Confederation history. Susan employed tactics that shocked even her human colleagues, feinting retreats that became traps, sacrificing positions to gain advantages, and psychological warfare that included broadcasting the sounds of human battle cries across Vraxian communication channels. Confederation observers watched as human ships took damage that would have caused alien crews to abandon ship, yet continued fighting. They noted how human commanders made cold calculations about acceptable losses to secure victory, a concept alien to most Confederation species. When the battle ended in Confederation victory, Admiral Hayes was summoned to the council chamber. She found the elders watching recordings of the engagement, their expressions unreadable. "You won us the day, Admiral," High Elder Zykorth acknowledged. "But your methods were effective," Susan finished for him. "And now I think it's time for honesty between us." She activated a data pad, displaying information Frank Carter and Ambassador Morrison had collected. "You've known about our combat capabilities for decades. You banned us not because you thought we'd lose your wars, but because you were afraid of what would happen if we fought them." The council members exchanged glances. "The psychological profiles," Susan continued. "The simulations. You discovered that humans have capacity for violence, sacrifice, and tactical innovation far beyond other known species, and it frightened you." Counselor Vex's scales shifted to a deep blue of admission. "We feared that if humans ever fully committed to galactic warfare, you would either come to dominate the Confederation or escalate conflicts to apocalyptic proportions," finished Zykorth. "Our fears were not unfounded. Your people fight with an intensity we cannot match. Yet here we are," Susan said, "using that intensity to save you, not conquer you." As she left the chamber, Susan contacted Earth. "They're finally starting to understand us," she told President Clark. "Whether that makes them more afraid or less remains to be seen." 2 months after the battle for the Confederation capital, the Grand Hall on Alpha Centauri Prime buzzed with anxious energy. Representatives from 300 species gathered for an emergency session to debate humanity's future role in the Confederation. Jack Morrison sat with the Earth delegation, listening as species after species voiced their opinions. The Vraxian forces were in full retreat now, but the question of what came next loomed large. "The humans saved us," declared a Procyon representative. "We owe them our gratitude and trust." "Their methods are concerning," countered a Rigelian diplomat. "You all saw the battle recordings. No civilized species fights with such intensity." Frank Carter leaned close to Jack. "They're afraid of us." Again. Jack nodded. "Fear or respect. It's a fine line." The debate continued for hours, until Frank received an urgent message. He slipped out of the hall to meet with Lisa Donovan and Ryan Diaz, who had just returned from the front lines. "We found something you need to see," Lisa said, handing him a data crystal. "Ancient Confederation records, They were in a secure Vraxian facility, stolen from the archives here. Frank reviewed the files, his expression growing grave. When he returned to the Grand Hall, he passed the crystal to Jack with a whispered explanation. Jack immediately requested permission to address the assembly. Honored representatives, Jack began when granted the floor. My colleagues have uncovered records that shed light on why the Council feared human military potential. He activated a holographic display showing ancient star charts and images of a species none of them recognized. 30,000 years ago, another species rose quickly to prominence in the early Confederation. The Krell. Like humans, they evolved as persistence predators with complex social structures. Like humans, they showed remarkable adaptability and intensity in conflict. The hall fell silent as Jack continued. The Krell rose to dominate Confederation defense forces, just as the Council feared humans might. And then, when faced with an external threat, they escalated a regional conflict into a war that devastated 200 systems. Afterward, consumed by guilt, they turned their weapons on themselves and became extinct. High Elder Zekorth rose, slowly. Where did you obtain these records, Ambassador? They were sealed by Council order. The Vraxians had them, Jack replied. They studied your history, looking for weaknesses. They attacked precisely because they believed humans had been sidelined, the only species they truly feared. Lisa Donovan stepped forward, having entered the hall with Ryan and Frank. I've analyzed the psychological profiles the Vraxians compiled on various species, she explained. They identified 3 unique human traits: extreme adaptability, willingness to sacrifice for group survival, and ability to function despite physical and psychological trauma, the same traits that marked the Krell, Zekorth acknowledged. But there's a difference, Ryan said. The Krell fought alone, taking control rather than sharing responsibility. We've succeeded because we worked alongside Confederation forces, not by replacing them. The debate took a new direction as species across the hall considered this perspective. General Alan West, invited to join the discussions, offered a proposal. The Council was right to be cautious about unleashing human military potential without safeguards, he said. But complete exclusion was an overcorrection. I propose a compromise. His plan was elegant in its simplicity. Humans would establish a specialized defense force that operated only during existential threats to the Confederation. In normal times, human military vessels would remain within Earth's solar system, with small contingents serving as trainers and advisors to Confederation forces. After days of negotiation, the Council of Elders created a new position within the Confederation hierarchy: Guardian Species. Humans would be designated as protectors, acknowledging their protective capacity while maintaining boundaries. As the details were being finalized, a surprising message arrived. The Vraxian leadership, now retreating to their core systems, had requested peace talks. More surprisingly, they insisted on negotiating specifically with human representatives. They respect strength, Admiral Susan Hayes observed when the request was relayed to the Earth delegation. They want to deal with the species that defeated them. The peace conference took place on a neutral space station. The Vraxian Supreme Commander, an imposing figure with armored exoskeleton and 4 yellow eyes, faced Major Olivia Russell and Ryan Diaz across the negotiation table. We underestimated your species, the commander said bluntly. Our intelligence suggested the Confederation had weakened you by restricting your military activities. You misunderstood, Olivia replied. The restrictions were to protect the Confederation from us, not the other way around. The Vraxian made a sound that their translators identified as laughter. Yes, we realize that now. The peace terms were surprisingly reasonable. The Vraxians would withdraw to their pre-war boundaries and cease biological weapons development. In exchange, they requested trade agreements with Earth directly. You prefer dealing with us over the Confederation? Ryan asked. We understand humans, the commander said. Like us, you are warriors at heart. Unlike us, you have learned to be more than warriors. This interests us. When they returned to Alpha Centauri Prime with the signed peace treaty, many Confederation representatives were skeptical. The Vraxians haven't honored treaties in the past, objected a Denebrian official. They've never negotiated with humans before, Jack pointed out. In the months that followed, a remarkable transformation began. The Confederation adopted a modified human military training program, learning strategic flexibility while humans taught restraint. Human scientists worked alongside alien researchers to reverse engineer the Vraxian bioweapon into medical treatments. Frank Carter, now appointed as Earth's security liaison to the Council, often found himself explaining human nature to concerned alien officials. Your people can be so gentle in peace yet so fierce in war, one counselor remarked. How do you contain such contradictions? We don't contain them, Frank replied. We balance them. That's the lesson here, not to fear the warrior nature but to direct it properly. 1 year after the war's end, the Confederation unveiled a new motto proposed by General West and adopted across the galaxy. Peace through understanding, even of that which frightens us. At the ceremony, Jack Morrison stood with his friends who had helped turn the tide: Lisa, Ryan, Olivia, Susan, Alan, and Frank. They watched as human and alien ships performed a unity flyover above the capital. Do you think they understand us now? Lisa asked. Jack smiled. They're beginning to. And more importantly, we understand ourselves better. And the ban? Ryan asked. Officially lifted, Jack confirmed. Replaced with something better: mutual respect. As the celebration continued, around them, Frank pointed to a group of young alien cadets being instructed by a human officer. That's the real victory, he said. Not winning their war, but changing how they think about conflict and peace. Susan nodded. They banned humans from galactic wars because they feared what we might become. Now they've seen what we actually are. And what's that? Olivia asked. Susan watched as human and alien children played together beneath the fireworks lighting up the alien sky. Exactly what they needed us to be.